Hey, this is Brandon McManus, Denver Broncos Super Bowl champion, and you listen to The Scoop on alscoop.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Scoop. This is Season 5, Episode 15. We have more of a full house this week. Kyle Gauss is back, Graham Foley's with me, and Sam Cohn is in with us, too. What's up, gentlemen?
I want to say, so I was probably the only listener last week from Wisconsin, and I would imagine if we looked at the stats, that would back that up.
Okay.
I was very happy with the beginning of the podcast. Graham said he was intimidated by me, more so than anybody else in his life.
I'm cowering right now.
End of the podcast, very mean. Very mean from both of you. You were both like, John at one point told me to look in the mirror and determine if that's the type of man I want to be.
I don't remember saying
Did you?
I honestly don't
didn't.
Do you remember me saying? I don't remember
something
saying
similar to that.
It's on there.
I think Kyle's exaggering the harshness of that.
Pull up the receipts.
I was in Wisconsin being like, oh, just wait. Oh, just wait.
This comes from a guy who has just ripped me thoroughly on road trips.
new one,
and then
yeah.
I'll look over at him, he'll go, hey, and he gives the little
I've
heart.
never done
Little
that.
heart.
You always
Yes,
say I
you've
do
done
that.
it
I've
once.
never done like,
Yes,
maybe
you
I've
did
done
once.
this. You do it outside. You do it in front of the chest. You don't do it like.
He's making a heart with his fingers
Yeah.
for
Is it
our
really-
listeners.
Does it really
For
matter?
those of us that are paying for Alscoop Premium, alscoop.com/live, you'll see our live cast of the Scoop today.
That is just a total lie. That does not exist.
Al Scoop Gold.
Alscoop Gold.
Yes. Well, today's going to be an interesting show. We will preview the Temple USF game. The Owls have to get back on track.
Have to.
I mean, I guess they don't have to, but
I mean,
they
do.
should.
There's a chance they could still win the division. It's not going to happen, but it could happen.
It could.
There was a chance it could very realistically happened if Houston had beaten
Sure.
UCF. this
Sure.
weekend.
So they have football's got a game down in Tampa at USF Thursday. Later in the show, we will get into the start of the Aaron McKie era, Temple's season opener against Drexel. Got some mailbag questions to get to as well. So let's start with the football team. Had a bye, almost a bye. 11-ish. 11-day layoff. They'll be playing the USF Bulls. Started off 1-3. Now they've won 3 of their last 4. And they're dealing with a team that's got some speed, and they didn't deal with speed 2 weeks ago all that well. We'll start with the injuries. So if you're listening to this, if you're a pretty hardcore Temple fan, you know by now that Rod Carey had said that Ramon Davis and Benny Walls won't play Thursday, although kind of interesting, Benny Walls practiced in full pads today. Again, today being Tuesday. So I don't know. I don't know if that's gamesmanship or if it's just a precautionary thing. Rod Carey did say that Ray Davis has been banged up. He said he's been banged up really since that Georgia Tech game. And if you listen to the audio from today, he said, honestly, he's a little bit further along than I thought. And again, I don't know if he's trying to tease something there. Who knows? Rod's been pretty straightforward. But if he doesn't play, it's Jagger Gardner, Ruley, and he mentioned Ed Sadie's name. So it'd be interesting. Would I be surprised if Edward Sadie gets in the game? Yes.
I'd say he's appeared in 2 games this year. Hasn't gotten a carry, but he has appeared in 2 games. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a true freshman out of Penn Charter. Asked about Kyle Dobbins, and he said this was, what did he say? He just completed his first full week of practice. Didn't say whether it was injury related, disciplinary related. I honestly don't know.
Sure.
So he said he could play in an emergency situation. But so if Rod's good on his word, he's not playing and Benny Walls is not playing. But they are getting Matt Hennessy back, and they are getting Ifan Maje back. Obviously, if you're looking
Arguably your 2 best players on each side.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not saying they beat UCF if those guys play, but maybe the damage isn't quite as bad. But
especially up the middle.
Yeah, let's dive into this game. We're not going right to predictions yet, but I don't have a great feeling about it for Temple. What do you guys think?
I would say, USF also coming off a bye-ish situation.
Same
I think
layoff.
a short week would have been, this is an absolute trap game. Like if Temple was 7-1 right now and they were on a short week with this, then I would say Temple gets stomped in this because it seems like the type of game they lose. I feel like with 11 days it might be a little better. But yeah, speed. USF, for all the badness, great vocabulary this year, all the badness that they've had this year, the ineptitude sometimes, they've always had speed. They come from a recruiting hotbed. Everybody down there is fast. Everybody. They haven't beaten anybody.
Proven.
Even though they've won 3 or 4, who have they beaten? Absolutely nobody. This is the same team. Like BYU stinks. They beat UConn. They beat
UConn,
ECU.
BYU, lost to Navy 35-3.
Stomped by Navy.
Killed
Stomped by Navy.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say I think this is still a talented team. I don't think it's a particularly well coached team. I think a lot of the luster's fallen off. Charlie Strong. There was talk before they won 3 or 4 that this might be it for Charlie Strong.
Yeah.
That he might get canned in this situation. I don't know if they somehow squeak out 6-6 or 7-5 if that's enough to keep his job. But I wouldn't say I have a bad feeling about this. They could absolutely lose this game because it's a Thursday night game on national television against a speedy team on a state that they have not played well in historically.
Well, yeah, it's a 5-game. These teams that face each other 5 times. The home team has never won in the
Right.
series.
It's
Not that
never
that's
even-
like steeped in years and years of tradition, but
Has it even ever been particularly close?
no.
I feel like every time it's whoever the home team is dominates.
Yeah.
I got
Last year was a little close. I feel like there was just some plays late in the game that kind of turned the tides for Temple.
Well, that's a great segue to the box score from last year, the 2018
Let's take a
Temple
look
USF contest. The Owls, of course, were the winners in that contest, and it was 27-17. Okay.
Yeah. A little closer. Give Graham a win there.
Yeah, Temple,
He's
Temple
smiling.
was down
Did it.
17-0 at halftime.
Graham's
of that
smiling
game.
like somebody.
Down
please.
17-0, and
Yeah,
Temple
that was the
just,
game that they just had a really massive comeback. And turnovers, I think, played a big deal in getting them back into that game, if I remember correctly.
I believe you're right. Yeah, Chappelle Russell had a fumble return for a touchdown towards the end of the cement. Isaiah Wright had a punt return for a touchdown. Is
Doesn't
this the
happen.
Isaiah Wright game? With if Ray Davis can't go, are you all of a sudden giving Jagger Gardner the ball 30 times a game?
I don't know. It's a great question. I thought about that
Thank you.
today. You're welcome. Walking
Blatantly
back,
stealing that from part of my take. So
walking back from Rod's press conference, I thought, yeah, maybe it is. Again, this is just a gut feeling. They just haven't. They just haven't done it this year.
No.
They just have not done it. I don't get. I just don't get the feeling that they're gonna put him back there. I'm a little surprised based off of. Now, did Mike Juremovich ever say in the spring, in the preseason, oh, yeah, we're definitely going to put him in the backfield? But he had that quote where he's like, yeah, I'd be stupid not to get him 12, 15 touches a game. Now, I think they've tried getting him touches on a couple of sweeps, but mostly it's just been throwing him the ball. But Isaiah always kind of sounds a little like he's very super laid back in interviews, always sounds a little down and out, whether he's having the best day of his life or whatever. But, yeah, he seemed – I don't know. I guess maybe they don't tip their hand about it, but I don't know. I just, for whatever reason, don't get the impression that you're going to see him back there. I think it's going to be Jagger Gardner. But
I mean, Ruley was a name you heard a lot during the preseason.
Yeah, he got 4 late garbage time carries
Right.
in the UCF loss.
And Sadie was a guy you heard a little bit coming in that he really had a really good senior year.
Yeah.
He all of a sudden, because initially he was supposed to come as a safety or a cornerback, and they said, no, we think his future's at running back.
Yeah.
With the Isaiah Wright situation, I mean, I think you might be quick to be like, okay, well, no offensive coordinator really knows how to use him, right? Because this is the third offensive staff he's been under, and nobody's ever gotten the ball as consistently as they said they should. But he's still averaging like 5.5 catches a game. Like,
yeah,
they're
he
getting
is.
the
No,
ball
I mean, I
plenty.
wouldn't say he's been like grossly
And if he
underutilized.
caught the ball a couple times over the last couple of weeks, his stats would
he
be
was
a lot up.
guilty of at least 1 or 2 of those drops done at SMU. Nothing went right, week and a half ago. But yeah, I mean, if Ray Davis is truly out now, again, Jagger has experience, but there's a drop off there, at least on the surface. There's a drop off there between Jagger Gardner and Tavon Ruley and Ed Sadie. So someone else has got to carry the ball. So you'd think it might be Isaiah, but again, for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't see it happening.
For our Eagles Temple kind of cross listeners, I just feel like it feels like Nelson Aguilar with those jet sweeps and those kind of plays. Like it's almost like they've made a concerted effort in some areas to give him the ball. It's just never really been working. He's not a very strong guy that can just hand ball like a running back to. It's got to be kind of one of those gadget plays, and they just haven't worked this year. This is a team whose opponents averaged 15 more yards on the ground than in the air all season. They have been blown out a few times, so those numbers could be skewed. But if they can run the ball and if they can do it in any way with Wright, I could see them trying it at least for the first half and seeing if it's going to work.
The one thing I'd say is that you look at the losses of Ray Davis and Benny Walls. Benny Walls is a huge part of that secondary, and Ray Davis might be like the most consistent piece on this entire Temple football team. Losing those 2 guys does really hurt. As you mentioned, it would kind of have to be a game where Isaiah Wright steps up, or at least somebody's got to step up. But after these 2 losses, I'm not super confident based on the size and speed of USF, but if anything is going to sway me in Temple's favor is that they are coming off 2 losses and they have a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, that'll be the most interesting thing to follow. Again, these guys, whether it was Anthony Russo, Chappelle Russell, Sean Bradley, that talked about having these players-only meetings. And I think Sean Bradley said today it took me like 3 days to get over it. You'll hear here in a clip we're going to play in a second. Anthony Russo talks about, it sounds like a huge cliche, but taking one play at a time. He said more or less that we've all been guilty of just kind of pressing. Now, again, I don't think anything was really going to get them back into the game against UCF. It just came completely unraveled in that 28-point third quarter. There were some fans on our message board who just decided, like, hey, we're going to put this loss on Anthony Russo. And I was like, I think you're nuts because they gave up 300-plus yards on the ground. And
I don't think I can't process how anybody could think that.
Yeah.
Not that he played a lot better against SMU than against UCF.
Sure.
But like they would literally, their running backs, their third string running back would go 15 yards without getting touched.
Yeah. I mean, they all but one of their scoring drives went less than 3 minutes or less than 2 minutes. You got to put that on the defense. You got to put part of it on the fact, like, sorry, there's a speed and talent gap between the two programs. Fan bases don't want to admit that all the time, but Rod Carey and his staff have to recruit more speed. Ray Davis doesn't have that yet. Graham and I were talking about this last week. A couple years ago, we used to say, come on, Jahad Thomas would take a screen and he would get caught from behind. I'm like, I wonder if he's got that breakaway speed. Then he got that breakaway speed. I mean, he looked like, he's not in the NFL now, but he looked like an elite back, even playing against Notre Dame, muscling in on that one touchdown. It wasn't a breakaway run. So maybe Ray Davis has that. I know
You're explaining this to me. I was there.
He's explaining to our listeners.
No, I think we literally talked about the Jahad Thomas thing like 2 weeks ago on the podcast.
Right. I'm saying
it's okay.
Just to review the speed thing, because they're going to see that again this week. I don't know. Especially on offense, they're throwing a few different quarterbacks at you. They got a really good tight end. I agree with you that they don't really have a win that you point to and think, okay, that was really legit. They lost to Georgia Tech. They got blown out by Wisconsin earlier in the season. Handled DCU. Mitch Wilcox, their tight end, plays really well. When you lose 63-21 to somebody, or you lose, 45 whatever to SMU, you didn't defend any area of the field well. When they tried to get some help to the outside in the corners against SMU, Buechele just threw over the middle of the field. So to say they haven't defended the middle of the field well over the past couple weeks, kind of like, well, yeah, no kidding. They haven't defended anything well, but they really have to be wary there. Jordan Cronkrite's very good. So, they've got some players that they're familiar with now. I would agree with you that Charlie Strong, some people are saying, like, yeah, what's going on here?
If he goes 7-5, he'll be fine.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure that these guys are ready to bounce back. And now you're doing it with potentially without again, you've been playing without Benny Walls for a few weeks now, so that's nothing new. Doing it without Ray Davis, it makes sense now. You see the way he's run the past couple of weeks. Again, you're not going to have great yardage totals in two blowouts, but he has not looked the same. Played fairly well against Memphis, but hasn't looked the same since Georgia Tech. That would make sense. But it's just, are they going to be talking Thursday night again about, like, oh, we were misfitting gaps and we weren't reading our keys and all those, canned football responses after a loss? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm not quite sure if they're ready.
Really?
Yeah.
Just going off gut? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say if Blake Barnett was playing this game for USF, I think Temple wins this game by 40.
Right.
I think he was probably a very nice guy, type of quarterback that Temple absolutely defends well. It's a little harder now with the different looks they give you. KJ Sales, the cornerback, the UNC transfer, very good. Beyond that, are we getting to predictions? What are we doing?
Let's play. I want to play this Anthony Russo clip real quick for you guys.
It's almost like there was a agenda on here that I just did not pay attention to.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's
here's Anthony Russo just quickly talking about what they need to do to get back. He got asked about what they talked about in those meetings. He talked about how they pressed. So here's Russo talking about that. And yet again, he's saying that we're going to be facing a team that's going to be playing man coverage against us, and we like that. Maybe they can take advantage of that. So here's Anthony Russo talking about what they're going to be seeing in Thursday's game.
They got a ton of speed. They got some real good corners, and number 7's a real good corner. It's going to be a good test for our wide receivers. Up front, they got some good guys up front. Number 4 likes to play D and a little bit of linebacker. He's a stud. 55, their middle linebacker, can move around. He's a big guy in the middle, can stop the run. So it's going to be a real good test for us. We're going to get a lot of man coverage, which we love, because anytime we can get our wide receivers one-on-one on the outside is big time for us. So I think it's going to be a big challenge for us, but it's the challenge that we want, the challenge that we need after the 2 weeks we had. To come out here and to, run our offense and improve what we can do.
What will this game say about the team? Because it seems to be a game that the season could go either way.
Yeah, I think this is a big one for us, just because the last 2 games when things didn't go well, we didn't respond well, and now we have an opportunity to respond after 2 tough weeks and then a bye week. We've had a bad taste in our mouth the past couple of weeks, so it's a chance for us to respond and come back better, come back stronger, come back faster, and do what we need to do and come back home with the W.
All right, so there you have Anthony Russo just talking about again, it's a cliche, taking one play at a time. Anthony on his end being content with, checking the ball down. Did have a great deep throw to Brandon Mack a couple weeks ago. That was just a shame that play was wasted in a blowout. I mean, that he put that throw right on him, and then Brandon Mack makes, I think, kind of like an NFL level type of play there when getting to the end zone. But they seem to love that. I feel like they played multiple teams this year. Like, they play man coverage. We like that. But if they, they, as we talked about earlier in the show, these games haven't really been close. Last year was kind of close, but they've got to play mistake-free football down there. They've got to get something out of the running game, whether it's out of Jagger or whether they, do some jet sweeps or something like that. I mean, it'd be a heck of a storyline if Tavon Ruley or Ed Sadie breaks out a little bit in this game. Navy ran on them, but Navy runs on you by doing what Navy does. Right. So, let's go to predictions. What do you guys think?
Like I said before, I think KJ Sales is very good. I think the rest of the guys in the secondary aren't great. Mike Hampton, not of Colorado Rockies and Atlanta Braves fame. He was one of the first guys.
Figured as much.
Him and Denny Nagel were the guys that really signed with Colorado before they figured out how to pitch in Colorado. Not so great. Bentley Sanders, the sophomore, though, they actually start him a bit in the nickel package, but he's tiny. I think Temple's bigger receivers have an advantage there. I think you can defend the pass pretty well against them. It's the dual threat aspect that worries you a little bit. I think you can run. I don't know if you can necessarily run against them. I think a lot of times when you're fresh off a game where they got absolutely handled by Navy a couple weeks ago, and that really skews the stats. There were other games, though, that they really actually did a pretty good job defending the run. I mean, against UConn, granted it's UConn, but UConn rushed for 84 yards. South Carolina State 95 yards. Even last week, ECU 102 yards, 2.7 yards a carry. I think Anthony Russo is going to have to win this game. I think with Ray Davis being injured, Jagger Gardner's had a pretty good senior year. I can't see him all of a sudden getting 25 carries though and putting up 150 yards. I'm a little more optimistic than you. I said in the beginning of the year I thought this was an 8-4 team. I still think this is an 8-4 team. I think they can win. If they win this, then I think they get to 8-4. So I will say they win this game similar to last year. I'll say they win this 27-21.
Graham?
I think I would be more worried if they didn't have Myjay back, if they didn't have Hennessy back, if it was
those
a
are difference
normal
makers.
Week. Yeah, and I just think you have that week off to get a little bit healthier, to kind of regroup. It just seemed like they were in a funk, and I think this could almost be a get-right game. It's still going to be a close game, but like you said, Kyle, I think it's going to be up to Russo to win this game, and I think it's going to be up to Isaiah Wright and Jaden Blue to get open, to make plays, for Brandon Mack to have. He's really played a lot better in the last few games, to have another kind of breakout game. I also think, to look at Jagger Gardner, maybe he can get close to 100 yards rushing against this team. Maybe he can be the lead back when he's by himself really in that backfield. So I think the offense gets back on track, and I'm going to say 28-20.
Very
Temple
similar.
wins.
He took the point from USF and gave it to Temple.
That's exactly right.
I'm going to echo a lot of what you guys said. Graham, you almost took my prediction for the second time in a row.
Sorry.
But you just missed it. So I think it is going to be a close game. I think Jagger Gardner is probably pretty excited to have an opportunity to be the lead back. I think you're right. I think it's definitely up to Anthony Russo here to take the classic Rod Carey phrase that he says at least 8 times a week. These guys are a little banged up. That's an every week thing. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be 28-24. Temple edges it out, but I don't think it's going to be that high scoring. And I think, again, it's up to Anthony Russo to kind of get this offense in check. Hopefully those players-only meetings worked.
And Kyle, you were wrong last week for the first time this week? No,
it wasn't Buffalo the first time. Too. Yeah, I think I was going into last week. I think I was, or after last week. I think it was 6-2.
Yeah,
and that's after last week.
Right.
So
it feels like a 31-17 loss to me.
Wow.
I kind of just feel like they're another week away from getting their act together on defense. I think this is a game where it's unfair to put it on one person, but yeah, I mean, couldn't this and shouldn't this be a game where Isaiah Wright plays the way Isaiah Wright is capable of playing? Again, we're not watching coaches film. Who knows what the blocking looks like in front of them? But like, don't muff a kickoff return inside the 5-yard line. Watch the ball come into your hands. Again, he's by far not the only problem with what has happened over the last couple of weeks. But this would be a game where you'd like to see him break out. This would be, Jaden Blue could stand to have a good game. I agree with you. I think Anthony Russo is going to have to win this game unless this is gamesmanship on Rod Carey's part and Ray Davis gets out there. Does Jagger Gardner have some talent? Sure. Granted, it was a few years ago, but the breakaway run he had against SMU a few years ago was great. But what were you gonna say? Sorry, I feel like I cut you off.
You did. It's fine. I was trying to cut you off, so then you cut me. Okay.
Yeah.
The conspiracy theorist in me, the tinfoil hat in me, thinks maybe it is a little gamesmanship, because when Rod Carey spoke on the teleconference on Monday, it was, Ray Davis, we're going to see if he can practice, or Benny Walls, we're going to see if they can practice. We'll see. So they were relatively optimistic on Monday. Benny Walls then practices Tuesday, and then he says Ray Davis is further ahead than he thought he'd be.
What did you think of that, Sam?
I was not expecting to see him in a boot walking out.
Right.
He looking sad and in a boot was not my anticipation.
So
for Ray
less
Davis.
than 24 hours after the teleconference, there's two optimistic statements of he's further along than I thought he was going to be, and then Benny Walls did a full practice. What changed?
I don't know.
Seems like positive developments from Monday when you were saying there's a chance they could play.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily definitive one way or the other at this point.
Yeah.
I would say if you could choose between the two, you need Benny Walls back, because his defense is hurting without him.
Yeah, I think if they, again, this might be one of those no kidding statements. I think if they go down there and win this game, I think this is like a watershed moment in their season. Now, where does it get them? Get some same. Yeah, exactly. But it would show me something if they can go down there and win without their leading rusher, without Benny Walls again, and go and win in a place where they just, I say historically, loosely speaking, because it's a new rivalry, but they haven't played well down there.
This was a game 3 weeks ago before the SMU game that you looked at this, not you in particular, as a layup. This is one of the games you look at and you go, okay, they're going to win that. They'll beat UConn. They'll easily get to bowl eligibility. I understand the last 2 weeks have made people sour a bit, they don't look the same team, but they just got back arguably their best player on offense and arguably their best player on defense at two of the most crucial. It's like baseball. You build up the middle, and they're building up the middle. They got all conference players back. I'm pretty confident. And you being pessimistic makes me more confident. I
see that coming.
I'm fading you.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Also, I won the over last night on the Cowboys fumble return at the end.
Wow.
Dirty moment for me. Openly cheering for a Cowboy player to score.
Well. Anyway.
Say la vie.
Graham, do you have time for these mailbag questions?
Yeah, you can do a couple.
Okay. All right.
If I leave by the class is right next door, I'll be fine.
Yeah. So we've got 3 mailbag questions to get to so far at this juncture in the show. 2 are very similar from the message board. One from the message board, one from Twitter. Some basketball predictions. First one comes from North Broad on the message board. This is for basketball, asking us to predict leading scorer, leading rebounder, leading assister, ? Over-under on 6.5 starts for Damian Dunn. Over-under on 18.5 wins. Postseason landing spot.
Why is there a question mark next to leading assist?
Should it be assister?
Should it be assister or leading assist?
Leading in assists?
Leading it. Yeah, I think that's,
Yeah.
But that's his question mark, right? I think he recognized.
Oh, okay. I thought that was yours.
No, I think he recognized, I don't think this is the right
word.
word.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah. Graham, you want to go first?
I do not.
Well, Graham, I disagree with you on your MVP.
Yeah, go for it. Do you want to?
Yeah, Sam.
You want me to take it?
Sam talks hoops.
Do you want me to go through all of them or just one at a time?
Do we want to go
question.
down?
Yeah,
we'll go
one
around.
at a time. Leading score.
Leading score, it has to be Quentin Rose.
Yeah.
It has to be. This
I
team
would
will
agree.
not be successful if it's not.
I would agree.
Any objections? No.
No. Any objections? We're in an elk lodge now. Any objections? No. Leading rebounder. I think this one's interesting.
I don't think it's going to be JP Mormon. I just don't think he'll play inside enough.
I know my answer.
I hesitantly say Justin Hamilton, but I think he'll start to spread the floor a little bit. So I'm, again, hesitant.
I think Napier Louis also.
Louis.
Yeah, he gets so many more than you would think for his position, and he's just one of those guys that has the tenacity to go after the ball. I think he's going to lead the way.
I don't think Justin Hamilton plays inside much more than JP Mormon does this year. I mean, it depends on how. It'll be interesting to see how much they really stick to like this style of play they're talking about. But they've said on multiple occasions, it's no secret, we have to be a great team rebounding team. There's no one traditional guy that's going to plug up the middle and just be like a ball hawk on the boards. It's going to have to be Nate. It's going to have to be JP. I agree that Justin does have to rebound the ball and be a little bit more of a complete player to match some of the potential he's flashed. But I would agree. I think it's going to be Nate.
I am curious to see what they do with Damian Moore and Dre Perry in terms of like where they place him in the offense and how many minutes, more so how many minutes they get. Like how they kind of work those. I think they'll both play a lot, but how they kind of deal with that front court.
Dre Perry's going to Dre's going to be my answer to a question later on, another mailbag question here. I think he breaks out a little bit this year. Not breaks out like first team all conference.
It's a better fit for him.
Yeah.
Again, we're all just going
leading
we're going off what we think they're going to play like. We'll have a better idea. Yeah. Future Kyle, future all of us will have a better idea when you listen to this later. Yeah. Wait, will the basketball thing already happen? Did that already happen when they listen to the podcast? Will our recap of the Drexel game have already happened?
Yes, it will have.
Oh, God. Let's hope they knew.
Leading in assists.
That's a good way to put it.
Also an interesting one.
Yeah.
Someone else go first.
Quentin Rose.
Yeah.
I think Quentin Rose is going to have the ball in his hand a lot in transition. I would say Quentin Rose.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Nothing really to add.
Who do I want to say?
You want to say Josh Pierre-Louis?
I kind of do.
It could be. I mean,
I sorry, I mean to cut you off. I honestly think 3 weeks in, a month in,
takes over.
I think he's your starting point guard.
Right.
I don't think they want to start a true freshman at point guard day one, and they're not gonna. There's no way they do. However, I think he's the closest you're going to get to a really good true point guard that is really strong at the offensive end and can command enough attention to spread out this offense and play the style of basketball they want to play. He fits in perfectly into what their mission is.
Sure. No,
he's all in.
I would agree with I would agree with that. I think there is an opportunity for Alani to hold on to his job, to be honest. Yeah. If he looks like he is when he did when he was a freshman, when he hit 42% from three, then he's not going to lose that job. The issue becomes the Fran Dunphy thing, not so much about who starts but who finishes, because at the end of the game, Alani Moore has a bit of a chance of being a defensive
The only thing about Alani is that, it sucks, but his size, if you play against a team with a bigger point guard,
they're going to body him.
It's a matchup nightmare.
Like me against
Ben Simmons and Kemba Walker.
People.
I'm sorry.
Right, it's horrible for
It's a matchup nightmare.
Right.
Yeah.
It varies by team you're playing. The conference getting bigger, stronger, better, faster. Alani Moore just down the stretch isn't going to be the guy that's going to help them make it to the tournament.
Over under 6.5 stars for Damian Dunn. This one's interesting.
That's a tough question
too, because it would require.
These are also interesting.
Yeah, and again, to be clear, we're answering. So we're recording this before the game. I mean, even if we recorded this after the game, I don't think it makes much of a difference.
No, it's gonna be hard to tell from one game.
So we're recording this pre-game.
Yes, I'm a little tired.
Need someone to drive you home tonight to Glenside, or no?
That'd be nice. Could you do that? And then find your own way home.
I'm driving your car home.
Yeah. What'd you imagine?
Dropping you off, you leave your car here.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
I'm going to go with under, but not by a lot.
Sam is not in the mood
Sam
for this.
I don't know where Glenside is.
I'm going to say under.
But not by a lot.
I think he has a definite role in this team. I think he's the guy you look at and you look back at the freshman, he played 18 minutes a game. He really had some moments. I don't think at this point. I think the injury kind of puts him behind the 8-ball a little bit. I think he'll still take some time to get into the rotation. I'll say makes a handful.
I think someone gets banged up a little bit. They can't start, limited minutes, whatever. Something in rotation changes. He gets a couple starts, but 6.5 is a lot.
It becomes a great story if he does get into the starting lineup. Then it means one of the storylines is going to be how unselfish was I don't know, J.P. Moorman to come out of the starting lineup. He knew he had to come off the bench to let Damian do what we needed Damian Dunn to do. I'm not sure
what they needed done.
Oh wow!
If Josh Pierre-Louis eventually becomes your starting point guard, you got Josh on the floor. Lonnie goes to the bench. I could see that. If Damian becomes eventually a consistent starter, then you're not gonna not start Nate. You're not gonna put Q on the bench unless you want to go really small and move Justin Hamilton to the bench. Maybe you do that. I could see that scenario, but I'm going to put it on under for Damian Dunn too.
Be huge for this team if both Damians look really good.
Right.
That's huge for this team.
I think you're just going to have to hope for flashes from Damian Moore. Over under 18.5 wins.
I think the Vegas over is 16.5,
which I think is really. I would agree with Mike Jensen on Twitter. It said I think that's
free money. That's 16.5. Yeah. Thankfully, unfortunately, I don't bet Temple Sports. So that over under 18.5. Is this regular season or the entire season?
I guess he just says
I guess
over
regular
18.5
season.
wins. I'm going. Let's just go whole season.
Whole season, I think it's
That's-
easy.
yeah,
over.
easy
Because I
over,
think
yeah.
they'll find their way into some tournament that gives them an extra couple games or whatever. I do think this team has the potential to make a run to the tournament. I think they have a chance to be a bubble team. I'm not fully in on it yet to say that they're going to be a bubble team, but I would go over 18.5.
I'm optimistic. I'm going to say over. I think they are a bubble
Did you
team.
predict 23 and 9?
No, 22. I believe 22 and 9.
I think you said 23 and 9.
I'll double check that. Maybe that was changed. I thought I put 22.
Well,
Blame.
I guess,
Yeah.
I guess
I'm
the question
optimistic. I
comes down
think-
to how many games.
Should
Yeah,
tip our cap
exactly.
to,
It's gonna be
to
tough.
Graham Foley. Inquirer intern is going to be covering all Temple home basketball games this year. So congratulations to
Thank
our
you
buddy.
very much. Very exciting.
Good job.
And
Thank you.
You would have been covering all home basketball games anyway.
I would have. Yeah, it doesn't change much. It's just
Yeah.
The name
a
on the
different
placard's
audience.
a little different.
That's exactly. And now I have a deadline, so that's fun.
Yes.
Hammer the over.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
hammer the over. I mean, they're 7th in the coaches' preseason poll. They should be much higher than that.
Well, Alexis going down probably bumps them up a spot in the coaches poll.
Yeah, it's
I
tough.
think this conference is going to be tough, and they're going to lose a couple games they shouldn't. But
Sure.
I still think it's going to be over 18 at least.
Alexis Yetna's on the Karl Malone Award watch list, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
The last people to win it, DeAndre Ayton, Zion Williamson,
Ooh.
and one more that's on the
Ooh,
tip of my tongue,
get him,
but I
Sam.
can't remember. Now,
Couple offered him.
I just wrote an American Athletic Conference preview and
And then he's-
about each team, and it just
That is gone.
finished one team on to the next.
But then he blew out his knee.
Yeah.
That was a tough break for them.
Right.
Postseason landing spot.
I'm going to say right now NIT. I do think they have a chance to make the tournament. I don't think there's any scenario where they're all of a sudden like a CBI, CIT team level team. I think right now it's like NIT. If Josh Pierre-Louis, if Damian Dunn all of a sudden take that step and really can contribute right away, then maybe I look foolish. Right now I'll say NIT. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's that's fine for Aaron's first year.
I think they do take that step, and I think you're going to see a lot more from Quentin Rose. I think you'll see a lot more from J.P. Mormon even. And I think this team is definitely good enough. I'm going to say tournament, and maybe not even first four. But yeah, I'm going to say they make the tournament.
Borderline, I think they're getting a bid.
I will say it's encouraging if you're a Temple fan that we're having all this talk. We've only mentioned Monty Scott once, and he might play.
Yeah.
He might avrage 14
He's probably
off
their
the
starting
bench.
point guard tonight, but I could be totally wrong.
Monty
after
I think
that.
it's going to
Monty
be
Scott?
Alani.
No, I think it's going to be Alani. So again, we're
I think Monty might be the first guy off the bench, or might be a
But
leading
again,
scorer.
by the time you have heard this game already happened.
will
and
know.
We will know.
yes.
we will roast our former selves for being wrong.
Sam seemed pretty confident in that. Like Sam might have a little inside info.
Yeah, Nate and I are good friends. But no, he didn't.
Temple basketball insider Sam Cohn.
I'm
gonna have to dip.
Graham is
I'm
dipping out
actually
to class.
late for class now.
Committed to his academics.
Yeah.
You'll hear from Graham later in the show.
The
as we are
ceremonial passing of the headphones.
all
Correct.
all over the place tonight. Next two questions here. One, so along the same lines, predictions here from asking us on Twitter, Zachary McClellan at Zach McClellan at Z McClellan. Hoops predictions: regular season record, team MVP, team most improved player, team scoring leader, average game attendance, and do they dance? So we all talked about the average, the team scoring leader. We all agreed it had to be Quentin Rose. Regular season record.
I like the headphones.
They play what, 27 games in the regular season? Is that right?
No, because I think
28,
there's
30?
guaranteed tournament games. Like I think they play 30.
Are we talking regular season? Or?
Regular, like I think there's guaranteed like that preseason tournament or that.
Oh. They had 24 wins last year, or is it 23? It's one of those two.
I think it was 24 last year. I think they went 24 and 11.
That sounds right. I'm
Regular
gonna.
season record, if it's 30 games, I think it's 30 games, right?
This is great radio.
1911.
You can say 9. So let's just assume 30. I don't really have the time to go and add all this up. Regular season, I think I would agree. 19, 11, 18, and 12. And then you have a conference tournament. All
You
that.
got some tough games.
Last year
early.
they were 23-10, 13-5 in the AAC.
Okay.
So 33 games, 18 conference games.
I don't know. I mean, the league's gonna be fun to watch and fun to cover this year. I mean, I think if there's any team that's getting a little bit too much preseason credit, and what's that worth right now? As we're just sitting here predicting, I think it might be UConn. But yeah, if we haven't counted these up, but if it's 30 games, I'm feeling kind of like 19-11. Again, I agree with you. If a couple things turn, if Josh Pierre-Louis hits the stride, you need him to hit right away. If Damian Dunn hits the stride, you need him to hit right away. Then yeah, you point to them as
31.
Oh, okay.
31 regular season games, unless I miscounted.
I'm
twice.
going 19-12. I still kind of feel them with 19 regular season wins. Team MVP.
Sam is getting ready to speak.
I thought he. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I thought
I'm
you
gonna
did.
go.
I thought
I'm
you
gonna go
did.
21-10 or 22-9.
There we go.
But 22-9, I think, is very optimistic. I
Very
think 21-10
optimistic.
is a realistic number.
Okay. Team MVP.
Napier Louis. I think Napier Louis is the best two-way player on this team. He'll take another step. Napier Louis.
Now, this is why I hate the MVP award.
Oh boy.
Is it most valuable or is
Oh,
it most
boy.
outstanding?
Oh God.
What
This is college.
What do
so
we
it's
call
MOP? We're gonna go with. I'm gonna go MOP.
most outstanding?
Yeah.
I think it should be Quint. I think it for this team, most outstanding player will be Quentin Rose. Most valuable player will be Napier Louis.
Yeah,
I would agree
I
with
think
that.
that's fair. Most improved player.
Ooh.
Justin Hamilton.
Justin Hamilton.
He
Yeah.
showed a lot of great flashes at the end of last year. He's developing a jump shot, and he's put on weight this year. I think he's going to come out with a lot more confidence and a chip on his shoulder to really have a bigger role on this team.
I mean, I think the only options are really like him, JP, and Damian Moore. Then maybe.
Yeah.
Dre.
Because everybody else there,
Dre Perry.
Yeah. Okay.
He's my choice, Dre
You
Perry.
say Dre Perry.
Yep.
So what are you envisioning? Like, what's February Dre Perry's role in this team?
Scoring a lot in transition, rebounding, looking at him as a guy that maybe comes off the bench and shuts somebody down defensively. I mean, Aaron has said, a lot of coaches say this, like, I don't want to play guys 35 minutes a game. Now,
They played.
he could look at Nate.
They only played one guy like that much last year, right?
No, well, Shiz
And
Shiz,
Quentin was
Q-
like 33.
Shiz, Q, and Nate were all playing 30-plus minutes.
You said 35. That's
Close to 35. I feel like they all hovered around like 34 minutes. I think they were
Definitely
I
above
think they were
30.
close to
I
it.
would say that Q or Nate got close to 35.
I think that this style of play is going to suit Dre, and I think he's going to be a much more of a difference maker this season than he has. Again, he doesn't even need to be a double-digit scorer.
Only Shiz Alston.
What?
Only Shiz Alston.
What were the other minutes for?
Very far away. 34.7, 34.3.
You say very far away.
Very far away.
I was right.
So
You're
from
afraid
from
to
Dre,
admit
you're thinking like teetering double-double?
Mm.
Like
Well,
7-7, 8-8.
it. Was that teetering double? I mean,
That's pretty
I
close
just-
to a
I
double-double.
envision him scoring a lot in transition and being the second Nate Pierre-Louis, a guy that can come in off the bench, and Aaron can say, just stick that guy. Just make him a non-factor. As Kyle almost dropped his laptop over there. But
Teetering
recovered.
double-double. That kind of
Well, if he
threw me,
was
that threw
teetering
me
a
for a
double-double,
second.
that
Yeah.
would be, for me, teetering a double-double is
It's
like
only happened twice in
8.9.
Temple history.
Yeah.
Not average. I'm saying like on a
okay.
solid night, he can get
yeah.
close to a double-double.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I said this. No one's going to give a damn about this. I think he looks like Aaron.
You have been saying that
I
for
think
years.
he looks
Yeah.
like Aaron McKie. Look at Dre Perry's face. He looks like young Aaron McKie.
I'm
It's neither
not-
here nor
I
there.
trust you on
Just
that
think
one.
about it. Yeah.
Hair looks a little bit different.
Yeah, hair looks different, but I think he looks like it. Anyway, regular season record, team MVP, team
Never.
most improved.
You didn't let me give my answer. Most improved player.
I'm
That's
terrible.
twice now.
I'll just see myself out.
Just to give something different, I think JP Mormon takes a bigger role in this
Mm-hmm.
team. I think he's going to require. I think there's a reason he's a captain as a junior. I think he's going to have to play a lot of minutes on this team and teeter with a double-double himself. I think he'll be in that situation where any night he could go for a double-digit rebounds. I'll say JP Mormon.
Team scoring leader, team most improved player. Are we at average? I guess we're at average game attendance.
Ooh.
I like this question.
Ooh.
I don't
do you
even.
think?
I don't even have a guess.
Well, I'll give you a baseline.
How much does it fit? Yeah.
So if
Well,
it's
10,201.
10,201.
10,201, I think, officially.
Last year they
It's kind of an
averaged
annoying number.
6,200.
Okay. So over under that.
I'll say let's get a little bump.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
bump. And they have Nova at home this year. So
Yeah, but it's Sunday at 1:00.
it doesn't matter. Nova will still bring people.
Yeah. I know, it's just annoying.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a pain. And if you're a Temple fan, you
A
hope
lot
that,
of vests at that game.
you would hope that game would be like November because
Yeah.
then you catch Nova
February, right?
Yeah, you catch them when they're young and like they haven't really figured things out. February Nova is a completely different monster than November Nova. I'll say still get a bump. I'm going to say 68.50.
That's literally the exact number I was going to give.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think
you guys have
they'll
been
put-
doing this a long time
yes.
together.
They'll be a shade under. I think they'll be at a shade under 7,000. They don't have any real. I like the schedule. They don't have any marquee conference games.
Yeah,
at
Memphis
home
not
at
coming
night.
is up.
Yeah, you don't have Memphis coming. That hurts you. Any of your,
Penn's coming here, right?
Yeah,
That's
I
UPenn and
don't
Nova
think
both
that's
coming
gonna. I mean, obviously Nova moves the needle in attendance. Penn does not.
Also,
Well,
Penn
I don't
is-
want to
Penn-
poop.
Penn's at the Palestra.
Oh, it
yeah,
is?
yeah. Penn's at the Palestra. So I mean, even if they were coming, I look. Steve Donahue's doing a solid job over there. I just like if they were coming to Temple, I don't think that's a game where you're like.
I don't think it's
looking
crazy
at
to say Aaron McKie plays a big part in.
Oh, he has to.
Yeah.
Oh, you. That's what if you're Temple, you're hoping. I mean, he has to make a difference. Has to make a difference in the attendance. I would put it right at 60.
I mean, I'm expecting there's going to be multiple games this year where they host top 15 teams.
Yeah.
Like Wichita State's coming, Cincinnati's coming, Nova, as we spoke about. So I would think that you hope you get the bump from just new blood in the water, and then people figure it out. St. Joe's at home, like you get St. Joe's and Nova at home. Those are usually pretty well attended games. I'll actually bump mine 68-51. We'll do Price is Right rules, so you can't win.
Or like a fantasy football bid,
Oh
free agent bid.
yeah, Darius Geis is coming back.
He is.
Yeah,
Maybe you have a bid in for him. Maybe you don't. Anyway,
teams in shambles.
do they dance? Kyle and I are saying NIT. You're saying they dance.
I
right?
say they barely. I say they're on the cusp and they get a bid.
I'll say this is what it's like most years, where they go into the conference tournament and you go, well, if they win 2 games there, then they're probably in the tournament. Yeah, but which is good. That's where you want to be for the first year. But no, I would say NIT.
I have a question kind of from that. Last year, it was the Houston win and the UCF win that felt like, although it wasn't guaranteed, those are the 2 wins that said that's what got them the bid. Do you think if they're in a similar situation, this Temple team can get those wins against a team like that, even though obviously no Aubrey Dawkins, no Taco Fall, no Corey Davis from Houston, whatever? Do you think in a situation like that, can this Temple?
Are you saying
Temple team
in
win?
the actual conference tournament or like towards the end of the year?
Yeah, towards the end of the year.
Towards the end of the year, they're going to play. They're never going to be out of this, because towards the end of the year, there's a lot of opportunities for you to go, okay, well, if they win that, they're still good, right? Because they finish up at Cincinnati, they have at Wichita State. Memphis isn't until February, right? Yeah, Memphis is February 5th. So like, there's all those games where you would go, well, yeah, if they win that. I think this team's going to be a lot better by the end of the year than it is in the beginning.
Yeah.
I would think that by then you're adjusting to a new system. Those younger guys have their legs, they have their sea legs underneath them. So I would think, maybe they do have the possibility to kind of kill a giant towards the end and get themselves.
They absolutely have those opportunities. Like Memphis, Nova's February 16th on Sunday at home. Who knows where UConn will be ranked? If they're ranked February 20th, that's at the Liacouras Center. They've proved that they can play Wichita State at Wichita State tough. USF going to take a step back just with the injury there.
Yeah, it's a shame.
If they win, if they win at Cincinnati on the road on March 7th, kudos to them. I agree with you. I think they're going to be figuring out a lot about who they are, who Aaron McKie is as a head coach, substitution patterns, all sorts of stuff. But those opportunities are there.
We're talking a lot about end of the year, but I honestly think their biggest swing as far as tournament is going to be right after the LaSalle game, where you go at USC and then you go Maryland in Orlando. Maryland's the type of game that you win early and it just grows.
Well, yeah. Because you're playing them at 11 o'clock on Thanksgiving, where there might be 500, 600
it's the
people
early
at that game.
Like Georgetown games of 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
You
So,
steal a win there, it grows.
Like it's not like you're going to you're not playing Maryland down at like
The Verizon Center,
Cole Fieldhouse atmosphere in like 1996. I mean, you're playing them in Orlando, where you could
7
really
years
like.
old. Sam, were you even alive in 1996?
No.
Yeah. No.
99.
Yeah. Dear God, 99.
I was in
I think the Verizon Center
I
was
was
built
in
by then.
the 20th century for 9 days.
Ooh, I was only in the 80s for 7 months.
I love you both, but you can both go straight to hell for making me feel old.
Well,
I didn't really mean that.
That's
I just
no control over when we're born.
Sorry.
Our bad.
Anyway, last question here comes from the message board. TU 1834. What was the worst stretch of injury luck you can remember while covering the team, and where does this current stretch fall into that category? Talking about football. Oh, I don't know.
Real quick, Portland State just got a waiver for a transfer hours before tip-off. And, like, I know, like, we're assuming Jake Forrester's not going to get the waiver, but, like, Jesus Christ, the NCAA is incompetent. Like, how do you not prioritize, like, hey, these people play on Tuesday. Maybe we should give them
we'll say that again. Like, we're recording this mailbag before the game. Heading into the game, I'll tell you, based off a couple conversations I had with sources yesterday, I'm not expecting Jake to get the waiver for this year. Who knows? Trying to predict what the NCAA is going to do is a fool's errand, as
just
people
the
say.
fact that they have not ruled one way or the other at this point is unbelievable.
They're a bureaucratic mess.
It's
So,
ridiculous. Like, no.
Yeah.
Anti-NCAA. Team chaos.
Team chaos. What's the worst stretch of injury luck you can remember while covering this team, meaning football, and where does this current stretch fall into that category?
That's a goodish. Yeah, that's a good question. Trying to think.
I don't know off the top of my head, and I mean, it's tough in the sense that again they got gutted in terms of losing Maje and Hennessy. You could see right away, and I'm really not even trying to rip Leon Pinto. He sort of held his own, but you could, at least off the top of my head, at least 2 of those 4 sacks came right up the middle there, and that's tough. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's one of the top centers in the entire country. I feel like, and again, this is me not having time to actually research this with actually just having a couple hours notice. I feel like Bernard Pierce was always banged up.
Sure.
When he was at Temple. I can't remember if they had to play a game where they were without Pierce and without Matt Brown.
I don't think so. I feel like every time Bernard was down.
Yeah, Matt was definitely. I think Matt kind of fueled his tank off of Bernard's out. I'm going to step up.
I have 2 things that come to mind. One is a lot less consequential than the other.
Mm-hmm.
The first one that comes to mind is Jeff Collins' first year, that Army game where they had to play 9 first-time starters. Gordon Thomas had never played before. All of a sudden, he's your starting center.
Yeah.
Everything was just bad for that game. Frank Newtown made his first start at quarterback that year. Everything was bad. The other stuff, and this is actually pre-me. So this would be something that I was aware of Temple football. I was paying attention to Temple football at that point. Adam DeMichael's junior and senior years, especially his senior year when they had a chance to make their first bowl game in 29 years, and he was just constantly injured. And it's not as frequent as you lost Hennessy and Maje and Ray Davis and all these people, but I don't think you can underestimate how valuable Adam DeMichael was to those 08 and 09 teams.
Yeah. That might be
because all of a sudden you were forced into. Hey, you couldn't play Von Charlton because you couldn't burn his red shirt, and all of a sudden you're going to a true freshman Chester Stewart playing at Penn State, and the ramifications were just monumental.
Yeah, that's a good one. I can't really think of anything else better than that. TU 1834, we may have a better answer for you a little bit down the line. Got to think about this one a little bit more. But anyway,
Is that going to wrap it up for us?
I guess it's going to wrap it up.
Is that it?
Should we cut this out?
No, it's fine. Just fade into oblivion.
Jesus. Anyway.
I hope that future Kyle, future John, I don't know if you're going to be on it, Sam, future Graham, I hope they did a good job earlier in the podcast. Because otherwise, whew.
We're going to hop in the DeLorean now, meet up with Doc Brown for all you Back to the Future enthusiasts out there.
You don't have to say Back to the Future enthusiast though. That's a very everybody got that reference. That wasn't
Did you get that reference?
Yeah, it's my favorite movie of all time.
That wasn't a.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
All of them or
I
the
have
original?
watched. One is the original and it's the classic. 2 is the most happens, and 3 I still like, even though a lot of people.
3's the Western.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never even saw 3.
I like 3.
I barely remember 2.
I think 2 is if you're gonna sit down and watch a movie, 2 is the most entertaining because there's so much that happens.
That's when they go to the future.
Between 1955, 85, and 2015.
Right.
But Back to the Future 1's the classic, sets everything up, and so it's just good.
My wife asked me the other day, who were some of your crushes growing up, and I mentioned Leah Thompson.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm naming my first son Marty.
Marty.
If
Not
that-
Martin. Marty.
No, probably just Marty. I'm just Sam, and I'm not Sam.
It's your kids, Sam. Your kids.
So that gives you any idea.
I need fuel.
How many times I've seen it and how much that movie means to me.
Wow. There you go. Old
Oh,
soul.
yeah. I watched Stripes for the first time on the plane.
I get ripped for this. That's another classic movie I haven't seen.
I was flying out to Wisconsin. I was like, oh, I'll watch Stripes. Figured, it's an 80s Bill Murray movie. This will be fine for the plane. Lot of nudity.
Yep.
A lot of hidden, let's hope nobody thinks I'm watching this for this reason on the plane.
Yeah.
It was good. It held up a bit. There were some funny moments.
What a way to bring this show to a close.
Then I watched a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies. So it took a,
Like what?
I'd never seen Django Unchained.
That's
Watched
a great
that.
movie.
That's by the same thing. I never watched The Hateful Eight, so I watched that.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. Both very good. He was into westerns for a bit.
Yeah. You're heading out to Wisconsin, the Midwestern part of the country.
I'll be back out there in about 96 hours.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, game 1 of the Aaron McKie era is in the books. Definitely wasn't pretty, but Temple finished off a 70-62 win over Drexel tonight at the Leah Corr Center. Everybody who was eligible to play played. Every available scholarship player, including Rashman Parks, played. 1 minute tonight, Nate Pierre-Louis ended up leading the way with 16 points. Quentin Rose had 14 points. Temple got out rebounded in the first half. Game was tied at 31 at the half. Temple outscores Drexel 39-31 the second half to finish things off. Just general thoughts on what you guys saw tonight. Was it about what you expected in terms of some rust, some turnovers? What'd you think?
Yes. Sloppy on both sides at first. I thought they played a lot better defensively down the stretch in the second half. Nate Pierre-Louis played a lot better in the second half than the first half. I think this is one of those games that kind of, looking back at it, you look at it and you go, okay, well, Drexel had some meat down low. Like they were able to kind of take advantage of the rebounding on the boards. JP Mormon had a great quote afterwards where he said, hey, we have high aspirations, we have high goals for this team. If we don't rebound the ball, we can just throw them out the window. Mm-hmm. I think that's true. I think they did do a better job down the stretch with that too. Nate Pierre-Louis became the first player since Mark Tyndale in 2006 to have 15 points, 10 boards, and 5 steals. Kyle Stat, Excel sheet. He really filled it all up. Not the best game from Quentin Rose. I would say it was rusty, it was sloppy, it was ugly at times. There were a lot of, as Aaron McKie called them, unforced turnovers or just getting in their own way. But in the end, a win is a win is a win.
A win is a win is a win. Some may say that, Some may say that Nate Pierre-Louis was really the team's MVP today. And I think in the second half especially, Quentin Rose was out for a while. We don't know exactly why. He may have been hurt. He was on the bike for a little bit. But that's really when the game settled down. They went on a 14-2 run and took control back of the game. The beginning of the game was exactly what you expected with the up-tempo offense. I don't think the shot clock reached 10 at all in the first 6 possessions maybe. And Alani Moore hitting a 3 was exactly what Temple fans wanted to see. But as it slowed down, that's when the unforced errors happened. I think that McKie, after the game, said he wants to play faster, but maybe he has to kind of pull it back a little bit, examine how these guys are doing under that pressure. Maybe that's what contributed to these turnovers and see how it goes from here. But a lot of rust and a lot of speed that maybe they just weren't ready for.
So maybe a guy that we thought was going to be a forgotten man in this rotation maybe a few months ago was Alani Moore. And as we got closer to the opener, figured, when I was here for a media day, we saw that in a lineup that they had late in practice, he was starting. Turns out he starts tonight, played the most minutes of anybody, played shade over 35 minutes. Finished 3 of 9 from the floor, 2 of 6 from 3. Actually grabbed 5 rebounds, 9 points, 5 assists, 2 turnovers. Played a pretty solid game, I think it was Nate who said he's always been able to make shots. But were you guys surprised by the fact he started, or is this kind of what we expected?
Not surprised by the fact he started. Surprised by the fact he played 35 minutes. Though I would caution with this rotation, I'm going to be curious to see what it looks like in a month when Damian Dunn's back. Just because Josh Pierre-Louis, for all the talent he had, a lot of times looked like a freshman out there in his couple of minutes. So there might not have been as many opportunities to kind of take him out as there will be in December and January. But yeah, I think he plays the role he's supposed to play. There's not that many shooters on this team. So like we talked about, like a past/future Kyle, John, and Graham talked about. If he could shoot like he did his freshman year where he shot above 40% from 3, then yeah, he has an absolute role in this team and might even be in the starting lineup.
There was one play in the first half that really stood out for me from Alani Moore. Obviously, he's not the strongest on defense, but with a defensive breakdown, it was just him standing in the paint with the Drexel forward coming at him, clearly outmatched, and all he did was kind of stand in the way, took a little sidestep, and he knocked the ball away. And it was exactly what he has to do on defense, and if he can kind of contribute like that, obviously he's not expected to do much on that side of the floor. That was a big play in my eyes.
So after the game, asked Aaron about why, and again, as we've said, it's a long season, game 1, asked Aaron why he elected to go with Alani as the starting point guard. And here you hear him talking about, we had a conversation over the summer because he could have kind of been a forgotten man. Not that Josh Pierre-Louis was maybe going to step in and start right away, but at one point they talked about Quentin Rose having the ball in his hand right away. But again, as it turns out, he plays more than 35 minutes tonight. So we asked Aaron about that. Here's what he had to say about Alani Moore and why he earned the start tonight.
We had a great conversation over the summer, and just was asking them what do you want your role to be? How do you want to finish here at Temple University? And I said you can have a huge part in our success and what we do, but the commitment is going to start in the summertime. And he committed himself to his body and his game. I would like for him to be more of a voice out there on the floor. He's not a natural leader, but he certainly wants to take on some of those responsibilities.
Another thing that stood out to me tonight, again, like Aaron used everybody, like we said. Less than 6 minutes to go tonight, he had this lineup on the floor. Josh Pierre-Louis, brought Josh back in, and I think that was his first action in the second half. Josh Pierre-Louis, Nate Pierre-Louis, Alani Moore, Dre Perry, and J.P. Mormon. And they forced a shot clock violation when it mattered. So he wasn't afraid to have his shortest player on the floor, true freshman on the floor. Dre, who, has experience but didn't play a ton last year. And, obviously these are things that are going to be worked out, as you said, once Damian Dunn gets worked into the rotation as the season goes on. But was not afraid to play a lot of guys. And, again, they have a lot to improve upon. But refreshing to see guys coming in, short substitutions and stuff like that.
Refreshing just to see anything different, to be honest, at this point. And no, that wasn't meant to be a shot at Fran Dunphy. It's just you knew what you were getting with Fran Dunphy, right? For the first decade of his tenure here, he wasn't making any subs until the under 12-minute timeout, and it just was what it was. He wasn't playing any freshman guards, and Aaron was willing to. Look, Damian Moore came in like 16 minutes left in the first half, the first guy off the bench. A lot of that had to do with Justin Hamilton's early struggles. But then throughout that, freshmen on the court early, freshmen on the court late. It's just refreshing to see anything different in the Liacouras Center. Temple's home basketball arena.
All right, so Temple plays next on Saturday against Morgan State. Again, a lot for the Owls to clean up, especially the offensive rebounding. Kyle mentioned J.P. Mormon's quote saying, if we don't rebound the ball, you can throw a lot of that stuff out the window. Monty Scott's debut tonight, 3 of 11 from the floor, 0 of 2 from three-point range. 6 points. Again, the numbers aren't pretty, but they got the win. Again, Saturday, the Owls will take on Morgan State. That'll do it from here from the Liacouras Center, and we will talk to you guys next week.